Hello, everyone. Hope you're doing well. It's Tech Talk time, which means basically the podcast that we do every week. We're recording it on Friday this time. Usually we record it on Fridays. We're back to that after a few weeks of kind of craziness. So yeah, basically what we're doing today in the Tech Talk is going through the previous comments on the previous Tech Talk, and then we'll talk about them, throw in some other stuff, and we also do stream it live. So if any of you guys have any questions and want to kind of throw them in, that's when to do it. But also at the same time, if you want to actually put, comments in or underneath this tech talk for points, if you want things discussed or if you have any questions or anything like that, this would be the time to do it. So the major thing to note about this week was, of course, we had the first Devblogs, ZSU, Shilks, it looks like. Also, there was a French Naval decal data mine, so we're probably gonna get the sub or the coastal tree for what do you call them? Coastal tree for France, and then also a few other things going on. So yeah, it should be a pretty good time. Looking forward to it, and should be kind of crazy going forward. Me personally, I'm feeling pretty good. Been working out a lot, having some good food, and also just generally feeling pretty good. Standing desk has been working well, going up and going down and going around. Jump around. So hopefully we can continue with everything we've been doing going forward. It should be quite nice. Do you think the T249 Vigilante on the M113 chassis with the rounds? No, that vehicle shouldn't be around that BR. It should be way higher. Hey Terminator, nice to see you. Hopefully you're doing good. So yeah, let's go through the comments and let's see what's going on. Nice to see you, Monet. Nice to see you, Bernico. First comment is obviously from Karam Chan with the timestamp, so thank you for that. Very kind, as always. I can't remember what we worked out last time for it, so should be all good. You really have one massive complaint for Gaijin, is that they ignore all the forums about the Makava's armor, proving that it's better than it is in War Thunder. The problem is the armor's classified, so even if they made it better, it would just be making it still fake, so there's not really a good way of there's not really a good way of actually balancing it, so it's just kind of how it is. Like they could improve it, and then what would that even do? It would just mean it goes up in BR. Like, what's the point? So we have BQ Eventer guy. Have you heard of the guy from Hull walking around the world since 1988 and 1998? Yeah, I've actually met him. He did a lot of just random stuff, just wandering about the place. But one of the things that he used to do quite a lot is he used to walk across the Humber estuary. So Hull is in the East Riding of Yorkshire, and it's where I'm from. And it has the Humber Bridge, which used to be the longest suspension bridge anywhere in the world, which was like kind of a claim to fame, I suppose, from the bog where I was from. But one of the cool things about the area where the bridge goes over, the Humber Estuary, is obviously tag goes in, tag goes out. You can't explain that, but no, the the water gets lower and then the water gets higher, right? And at certain high points, what you can actually do is you can actually walk across you can walk across. Oh, they really buffed fire, didn't they? Jesus Christ. Okay, well, at least we know now. That you can walk across the estuary as long as you're, tall enough and quick enough. And this guy did it like a bunch of times, which was pretty cool. And then he just decided, you know what, screw it, I'm just going to walk about the place. So yeah, he just wanders around the world and chats to people. Hull is a very weird place because it is a great zone of debauchery and decrepitness and disgrace, but it also has some of the most important people in history from, including William Wilberforce, weirdly enough, who was the guy who pretty much ended what we would class as modern-day slavery. He was the guy who pushed through the ideas of removing slavery from the British Empire, which then had a cascading effect everywhere else, which is kind of cool. See you later, Boeing. Look after yourself, man. Wonder if the JRV G1 will come to the Chinese tech tree? Maybe. No idea what that is. What is that? But yeah, so it's kind of interesting when it comes to Hull. There's a lot of funny figures from there over the last few years, like John Prescott, for example, is quite hilarious. And also like Chip Spice. Like this is something I didn't know until I was like 18 or 19. But in Hull, you have this thing called Chip Spice, and it's like a blend of different stuff. It's like salt and paprika and other stuff. But it's in like all of the like fish and chip shops or like all of the burger joints and stuff like that in Hull. And I was like, oh well, this must be everywhere else in the world. Turns out it just isn't. It just isn't a thing that is around. So you actually have to order it out, which is kind of fun. Basically, Chinese automatic on wheels. Oh, that thing? Yeah, sure, why not? They made a pretty good movie about him, Amazing Grace. Yeah, so it's kind of interesting to see stuff like that. Like, at least for me, I kind of enjoy reading stories about people from the area where I'm from. But also over here, there's a ton of pretty cool people as well. When it comes to making Canada what it is today, well, unfortunately over here, they very much always focus on the negatives. Like, whether, basically, if you go into any museum over here, half of the exhibit is going to be about how Canadians, whatever you class as Canadians in the oldie days, even before Canada was a thing, oppressing minorities. So, like, literally, there's a very large spike in what seems to be a lot of Canadian culture, and it's about the whole, we hate ourselves because of what our ancestors did, and it kind of gets boring after a while. It's why, like, half the museums that we go to, like, it's really cool learning about, like, the history and everything like that. And then it just goes into the self-flagellation of, whipping yourselves because we are bad. And, yeah, I'm just not a huge fan of it. Luckily in Britain, there isn't too much of that stuff, even though people want to try and add in more and more as we go along. Just gets kind of boring, hearing about how awful people were in the past. It's like, yes, people were pretty bad, but I'm more interested in the innovation instead of the pyramid of power. So then we have Toshio. I suspected there was a change to missile guidance over the past week or so. They sniffed around less while tracking targets. This is noticeable from tracking view. It also seemed to affect the efficiency of IR missiles. Have you noticed this? Well, they changed Fox 3s, didn't they? So they changed how Fox 3s tracked, which is interesting. I don't think that affected anything else that I know about. There has been quite a few server issues, meaning there's probably more player to server desync stuff. I've seen definitely more of my missiles just do the whole wobble, like, around the place, which very much sucks. But yeah, I'm not really sure what is causing it. Maybe it might just be server overload, like there's more stuff going on, there's more things in the air. That can obviously cause stuff like that. It might honestly just be something as simple as, the little change to like how things go, or as we said, there's more people playing, so maybe more issues on the server. But it might also just be something simple, like, it might literally just be sometimes you just get a wonky interaction. But yeah, I haven't seen anything concrete right now. I don't think when I was playing the J7E and when I was playing the A7D and a few other vehicles with missiles, I didn't think they were acting too oddly. There's a few misses which didn't make a lot of sense. The thing that I think annoys me the most, and this is just a desync thing. When you launch a missile at a person and then it looks like they countermeasure after the missile hits them, I get quite a lot of that. But that's just because, as I said, of server desync. So it's just kind of how it is. You did a video about it a while ago. It's a 76mm naval gun on a 10-wheel chassis. Oh, yeah, that thing. Yeah, that was in the past to the devs. Good old turning circles. Does anyone know what it's like after doing or buying the task for an event? Does it ask you to buy and select a crew or what? I don't know. I don't think you have to buy it, right? But you do have to select the crew. So usually you have to pay like $1 million SL to put it in a crew. But I'm not sure about purchasing the vehicle. It usually just gives it to you, doesn't it? Alright, there we go. So we have Organic Chemistry Junkie. Afternoon, Mr. Jedi. Nice to see you. Hi, Tech. Hello. Funny, the same logic being used in support of current APHE would also apply just as much to bring back the 2016 New Cage files. Yes, you are completely correct. I saw people saying it's balanced because tanks have magical repairability on any part in under a minute, which was also used in support to New Cage files. Well, there's not really... That doesn't even make sense. Because if you have a look at a lot of the complaints or a lot of the ideas around stuff such as the APHE stuff, the reason why a lot of people don't want the changes because it's reliable at one-shotting vehicles. Like they even say it, right? Like that dude who made that that video on the eastern side of things. One of the points that he brought up is it's one of the only guns where I can penetrate a target and destroy it and not have to worry about having, you know, having a second shot or anything like that. He specifically talked about how he wants a lower TTK, which is known as time to kill, which is an FPS term that everybody talks about and is very, very prevalent in the COD community, weirdly enough, because of the whole idea of, well, I want this person dead quickly so then I can move on to the next target, therefore lower TTK equals better, which really isn't the case a lot of the times and hasn't been for a long time. So it's just one of those things that is always brought up by people nowadays. So for me, when I hear something like that, right? when I hear that mention or when I hear that noise, it instantly sets off my head because I remember a lot of the conversations during the times of, you know, COD and during the times of some of the other stuff where they would discuss these things and talk about them, and also, you know, some of the other ideas as well, such as the thingy matchmaking. I can't remember what it is. Everybody is just using firebombs now. Oh, Jesus. So yeah, it's not really surprising to me to see more of that stuff, and yeah, it's a stupid logic at the end of the day. The idea that whoever has the better ping, the idea that whoever just has the better FPS, whoever is able to see the person first should win, is very stupid, and also just takes away from a core part of War Thunder. Like, the thing about shooting games, like FPSs, whether you look at like Tarkov or you look at COD, they all have the same issues as War Thunder in terms of like ping and in terms of, you know, how long it takes to kill stuff or whatever it is. But the one thing that's really cool about War Thunder is you actually have ways of trying to make it so you can survive an engagement if you don't see somebody first. Whereas I feel like a lot of these guys just want to take it to a place where it's just, okay, I've seen you first, you die. And it's just like, okay, well, you can do that if you want, especially if you want to beat up like mid-tiers and stuff like that, but the problem I have is if you want to make it like super competitive like that, it's going to drive a lot of people away because a lot of people don't think like that. They just want to kind of have fun in the vehicles that they see. And also, War Thunder has the esports side of things. It has the tournament side of things. It has the ranked battle side of things. So like, why do we need to spread it even more to other areas of the game which are more standard? It just kind of sucks, and I wish it would be very different. But yeah, even back in the day when they changed H-files, like, so what he's alluding to, by the way, or not alluding to, but talking about, is there was back in the day, H-files didn't care about armor. Just kind of like how a lot of things didn't care about armor in ground, like a lot of ordnance options, like bombs and stuff like that. And basically, what ended up happening was if you even hit near a target with a H-file, it wouldn't take into account its armor, so it would destroy your internal components even if it didn't hit you. So as long as you had enough explosive mass next to the target, so not even hitting the target, it would die. And this led to people running stuff like sabers or running stuff like anything basically with H-files like P51s or whatever, and nuking like 4 or 5 or 6 different people with them. And when they brought in the change, which was not just, once again, a great example of a realistic change, which is also a balance change, where they made it so rockets don't just negate armor, then it ended up making a much kind of better area for CAS, because first of all, it changed the way that people approached it, and also it meant that it wasn't just a scurry to whoever could get in the vehicle with the most rockets and nuke a bunch of people. And guess who didn't like this change? That's right, a lot of the high-end competitive players, because they abused the system. I still remember the YouTube videos back then from some of the creators who were talking about how it was a negative change because of the fact that it reduced the skill level in the game, even though it increases the skill level, because now you actually have to aim properly. Very weird how, time goes around, time goes on, but everything stays the same. But yeah, I really dislike a lot of the arguments that have come out of that, but it doesn't matter anyway, because, we're just going to be sat not doing too much. What annoys me the most about the stuff like this is Guardian says this is for realistic accuracy. Yeah, they'll nerf the guns on things like the Horton and the 262U4 and reduce them to be so inaccurate. Well, as I said, there's this really bad idea, okay? There's this really, really bad idea that is going around this community at the moment, and it's a horrific one. I don't know where it came from, but it's really stupid. The idea that something can't be realistic and also balanced. Or you can make a change that is realistic in order to help with balance, right? So realism is a factor in these parts, but balance is the major factor. So if you have to bring something in order to balance something, that is the primary. And then the secondary consideration, right? The secondary consideration is whether it is worth bringing it in from a realistic point of view or not. So if you can do it from a realistic point of view, which is a secondary idea, you do it. If you can't, then you don't, and you still do it anyway, right? Great example of this is BRs. BRs aren't realistic. The idea of a BR, it makes absolutely no sense. But it's in the game, because if you didn't have it, no one would play the game, because it just wouldn't work, right? Because whenever a new player comes in, they just get twatted by whatever, the end of the line person is at that time. So what you have to understand is these things are kind of scaled setups, right? It's, hey Teddy, nice to see you. It's all about, can you justify what you are making to different parts of the community and also push forward towards the idea of balance. That's the whole point, right? Sounds like a skill issue. I mean, it's not a skill issue when you're on 160 ping, right? Or maybe if you have shit FPS or, any of these things. This is crazy cope. Well, you can say what you want. It doesn't mean anything. At the end of the day, that's just how it goes, right? Like, the whole point of it is that Gaijin makes decisions to balance the game. Sometimes they make decisions based on historical accuracy because that's what people want, and then they have to rebalance afterwards because they were wrong. But yeah, it's just kind of how it is. At the end of the day, if you look at the APHE changes, they're bringing in 2 buffs to it, to an already very powerful round, and now you don't have the nerf, so now it's going to be even more crazy. And the thing I think that annoyed me the most about that argument was the distrust idea. Like, we talked about it in the Duma video. Like, the idea that people do not trust them to change this factor, but also trust them enough to change all of the other factors to bring it in line with that factor. It was very confusing. Do the APHE changes help with balance, though? A lot of tanks depend on the abilities to take on weak spots. Where do the tanks with stabilizers go? What? The issue you have right now is you have one round which is way more powerful than everything else. Right? So the idea is to buff that round, which is already overpowered. Okay. And then bring in a realistic nerf that would then balance it with everything else and mean that you would have to actually aim. Right? Well, because they have somehow fallen upwards and created a stable position. This change could create over a year's worth of hardship due to balancing issues. Yeah, it could also do the opposite, so... Once again, as I said in that video, it's just pessimism versus optimism. Like, any change in the game could create a ton of different issues, therefore we should never make any changes, right? When things fundamentally change over a period of time, which War Thunder changes pretty much every like 2 or 3 months on a fundamental level, you're never going to have inherent balance, right? But if you decide that some changes are not allowed to go through because they would screw with the natural order, but other changes can go through because you perceive them not to, even though they do anyway, that's when everything starts falling apart. And that's the problem that I have. Because it isn't about screwing with the natural order, or it isn't about anything like that. It's, I like this thing, I don't want it to change. If we want to talk balance, they should increase their speed costs to bring out nuke bombs. I mean, okay, but yeah, fair. If you want to. A lot of tanks with stabilizers are higher in BR than their counterparts because they have stabs. They usually can't lol pen things frontally and have an aim about weak spots like cupolas, but if they go... Which vehicles are you specifically talking about? Are you trying to talk about the Jumbo right now? But once again, I talked about this in previous videos. If all of these things are believed, and let's say they're all true, right? Let's say they're all true. Okay, let's retroactively change these specific vehicles BRs. You know? There you go. Done. They just need to run the changes by me and I'll approve them. True. If you believe that there are problem vehicles, and, you know, other people agree with you and there's a consensus, sure. Let's retroactively change their BRs. Easy peasy. All of the Shermans? Really? You think all of the Shermans will need to go down in BR? I don't know about that. But yeah, as I said, sure, let's do it. If that is the factor that makes you not want to do it, then let's do it. We'll even do it retroactively. Because that is something that happens anyway with general BR changes. So why wouldn't it work anyway? The thing that bugs me with the change is that so many people don't even mention the buffing part. I've even seen other content creators not even bring up the buff part. Yeah, well. Say, Livy, what are you gonna do? It's much easier just seeing, you know, everything like by itself and then going from there. But yeah, I think the saddest thing for me is actually more about the fact that it wasn't even allowed to be tested, you know. Then we have Maxwell. You think all the Shermans will unbalanceable? Or do you mean are unbalanceable? Or will in the future? So if that's the case, then fair enough, like, there's not a lot we can do about it. Hey Tech, hello. I didn't know the Rattles are so slow. Yeah, they're slow, but also they have terrible targeting speed and many other unfortunate factors. So like they're not good vehicles, man. They're really tough. Both of them are, and well, all three of them technically, because you have the Rattle 90, the Rattle 20, and then the ZT3A2. Yeah, they're slow, they're cumbersome, they have no armor, they die to artillery strikes. They're pretty bad. Like, they're no good. You like the Rattles? It's alright, J-Man. You know, some people are chubby chasers. I'd love some folded East German vehicles like the T-55 and the M48. Sure, why not? Go crazy. Sounds good to me. Alright, there we go. We've got the F-14. Easy money. There we go. and we want to consume it because otherwise I won't have it. Right, there we go. We need to move everything up in BR to fit World War One. Can you imagine? Anyways, I've spent a bit below 2 hours of test flying the F-14 from the event. It's my favorite aircraft ever, and it's a shame I can't be grinding the event. Not even close to getting the tree one, so I guess I'll keep test flying it. Yeah, that's fair. But remember, while you're test flying it for those 2 hours, you could also be grinding the event, right? Or grinding the American tech tree to get to the F-14. The F-14 in the tech tree is in a really nice position. It's going to be cool to see what happens with it. You know, obviously there's going to be a bunch of videos and a bunch of media around it right now, but I kind of like waiting a few weeks and seeing where these things lie. But yeah, should be good. Shouldn't be too bad. I'm pretty new to the game, and I think the APHE changes would have been fine. It's all you damn see. Yeah, pretty much, because it's the meta round. The only time you don't see APHE or APC, BC with HE filler is when a vehicle doesn't have access to it. And what you'll find a lot of the time is the people who are basically like, hey, it would be quite nice if these things change to bring it in line with the others, are the people who play those vehicles, because they're at such an inherent disadvantage. But yeah, never mind. It's just how it is. But yeah, the F-14's looking pretty good, and you know, hopefully in the future you'll have a bit more time to be able to grind some other stuff out. But eventually you'll get to stuff like the F-14, right? You know, everything is in your grasp. If by any means the BMPT added to the game, which BR and rank would it be? That's the Terminator, right? With like the 230s and the A2 gems. I mean, if you have a look at a lot of the other light tanks, which are in that area of the game, probably like 10-0, right? 10-0 seems to be pretty set up. Hey, Sneaky, nice to see you. Hopefully you're doing good. Yeah, 10-0 seems to be the area where they chuck all those things. I don't know about the missiles on the BMPT, though. Like, I don't know what they're like. Then we have Jerry. Maybe something Gaijin can do is give one of the American 40mm 4.3 SPA's HEVT rounds and move it to like 6.7 or 7.0 to give the US a mid-tier SPAA. Also, did you know that the Mouse Jagdtiger E100 get a commander site? It's pretty useless but interesting. The one that I enjoy the most, commander site-wise, is the BMP, because you see like the little like hatch like move around as you move around. It looks pretty fun. But no, I didn't. But that's really cool. Hopefully they add commander hatches to everything. Sure they will, like over time. It's just, you know, one of those things that takes a lot of effort. I mean, they could do that, or they could just add in the plethora of American vehicles that are at those BRs. You know, like the thing about America, I know people always talk about the fact that they transitioned into air dominance, yada yada yada, long range missiles, yada yada yada, SPAA, yada yada yada. But if you actually have a look at the area, which is in a bad place for America, so you know the 4077 area for SPAA, there's a bunch of them that they can add. There's a bunch of prototypes, there's a bunch of projects, there's a bunch of things which were like fully built that they and tested that they could easily throw into the game. So like the idea that, you know, they need to do something to a pre-existing vehicle, it's not really needed. But also at the same time, HEVT at 6.7. Have we ever had HEVT at 6.7? Does anybody think that's a good idea? Don't know about that. That HEVT, the lowest HEVT we have for aviation is 9.0, right? Or no, 8.0 with the Chinese machine. Like the WZ 305, whatever it is. Like a 6.7 VT sounds awful. Hey Daniel James, nice to see you. So yeah, it isn't a case of just adding VT for something and running with it. It wouldn't be balanced. If you have a look at all of the AAs that are around the 5.0 to 7.0 mark right now, they're either tank destroyers like the ZSU, or there's stuff like the BTR-ZD and the M53. So vehicles which have a high fire rate, you know, Bosvark is another one. They have a high fire rate, you know, decent magazine size, and also very good muzzle velocity. So you just need something like that, right? They need more top tier SPA like the Striker Shorad. Sure, why not? But yeah, those types of things. So some kind of rapid fire chain gun would make much more sense than artificially, you know, putting up a vehicle with VT, since nobody else has access to anything like that. So yeah. There must be an American box or an American vehicle that just has a 20mm or a 25 or a 30mm rapid fire gun that you can just sit there. In Newcastle, nice to see you, man. Hopefully you're doing good. Whoa. But yeah, so they should just do that. It would make much more sense instead of doing the other stuff. Dash. Thank you for the subscription, Apocalypsifer. Thank you for continuing to support the channel. Very much appreciated. Thank you very much, man. So then we have Phil. Howdy, Tech. Howdy. Looking fantastic, King. Hope you're doing fantastic. Yeah, doing good. My bench press is up to 160 now. So I'm happy with that. Gonna try and get it up to 200. Adding in some more, I suppose, building of triceps when it comes to the body. But yeah, I feel very strong right now. Feel very good. And overall, feel very nice. So yeah, feeling pretty nice. We're looking at a few places to go and visit and go and see. There's a lot of birthdays this month for the family members, a lot of anniversaries and things like that. So yeah, pretty fun. So we'll see how it goes. September, October, November, December is a pretty busy time. So I get to kind of enjoy it now and then go from there. I was just wondering when you think we'll get the M10 Booker. I just recently have heard a lot about it a while ago. Thanks. Well, the Booker's one of those that we could get whenever, right? Like it's not one of those vehicles that I feel like has a time limit on it. It's just one of those which generally could appear whenever. If I was gonna put like a thing on it, I'd probably say in the next year, right? But the problem with it is it's impossible to know. It's kind of like what's it called? The Scorpion for the British? Is it the Scorpion that I'm thinking of? The little light vehicle. Like, it could literally just drop in at any time, and it would make sense at any time, so don't think there's like a time limit on something like that. I'd like to see it as soon as possible. The book is pretty cool. There's a lot of vehicles for America that are awesome. And we do have a lot of them, but that doesn't mean we can't have more. So it's just one of those where it's just, let's bring in more and more and more, right? Reminds me of the AAA you got in Battlefield 3 and 4, chain gun with some missiles. Yeah, but it doesn't even need to be missiles, just a chain gun, right? Lumbago this week, hope you're better. Yeah, feeling good, Apocalypse. Had a slight ear infection yesterday, but it's cleaned up very quickly. Just very itchy in the ear, but it should be fun. I think Gaijin could add more tanks than the 60 HVG installed. Yeah, of course they could. They could add all the ones. The problem with that 60mm is it's awful to use. But yeah, that's a different story. If any of you have actually used that 60mm, which, not the VCC 8060 or whatever it is, because that thing has that 2-second reload, but if you've used the Orbital, you know how annoying it is to play that thing. I remember just over and over and over and over again facing T-55 AMs, penetrating and doing no damage, and very, very annoying. Sad. But yeah. Oh well. So then we have, I'm guessing that's Dopiece or Dopice? Doppy? I just go with Doppy. Hey Tech, hello! My idea, adding something to UI or research to compare vehicles for newer players. It would be nice to just pick one, and when hovering over other vehicles, you can see the differences between side by side. For example, the 1941 and the STZ, but sub-vehicles, so you'd have to right-click them. Then other etc. is annoying if you just want to see what the difference in stats is. There's a few apps that do that. Like there's a few apps that are available on Android, I think, and iOS that do that, but there's no official ones. I don't think in the Gadget Pass you can do that. There has been talk about that. There was a mention of something in the roadmap about the profile stuff and the things that they kind of showed on the forums was very similar to that kind of idea. And since they've just added, I don't know if you saw to the stat cards, but they recently just added to the stat cards your statistics, so where your crew skill's at, and then what your maximum crew skill would look like. So maybe they're finally getting to a point where they might actually do that. Like you can see here with like the turret rotation and the reload on the Tiger II 105. So if it's aced, it's 18.5 instead of 15.7, and the reload rate's down by 2 seconds, which is kind of cool. So for me, I would love to see some kind of comparison thing in War Thunder. They've been really working a lot on a ton of the UI stuff recently, so I don't see why they wouldn't kind of add that in too. I'd be completely fine to set something like that up and then go from there. There's just a lot of third-party stuff, but there's been no real official stuff, apart from maybe the app back in the day, like the War Thunder Assistance app, but I can't even remember if that was that or not. I'd have to look. Then we have Insane Robert. Hello, Tech. Hello. For all people that complain about APHE rework, I'd recommend them playing the Churchill Mach 7. The experience will be totally a game changer for them, and they'll force them to plan where to go and where to shoot, since the Mach 7 is slow and also has an underpowered gun for BR 4.7 compared to anything it can face. Well, they could do that, or they could do the other thing, which is literally, what's the word? Just play the British tech tree or play anything with just AP. Like, play French stuff, right? Like, it really makes you realize how overpowered certain things are compared to what's available in other areas. Now, I think Gadget made a video about how to play the Churchill or something this week, so I might have to have a look at it, because usually those videos are quite funny, because they're a little bit ridiculous at the end of the day. They could add the M113 defense area. It's the Argentinian M113 with a 20mm gun to the US as an SPAA. Yeah, there you go. Which type of 20mm is it, though? But yeah, there's a lot of vehicles which are in tough positions and don't really do a lot of damage after penetration. But yeah, the problem is with a lot of the APHE guys, they're like, well, don't move APHE, just move everything else. And it's like, come on, man, like, we can't do that. It's just a bit silly. P.S. I tried to get Enlisted these days. It's better and more enjoyable game than it was in the past. So there's a couple of issues, but the balance and general gameplay is more pleasant. Experience at least the lower levels. The main issue I've met is rank 1 anti-tank systems versus rank 2 vehicles. Yeah, so basically the same issue that was there before. Like a 20mm AT rifle going against a T-34. It even struggles against a T-50 as well. But you can still destroy them with high explosives if you can sneak up and blow them up. It's also a different experience playing tanks with a crew from the inside and having a limited view of the field greatly changes your perspective. Yeah, I mean, as I've said in the past, like the soldier gameplay for Enlisted was always fun, and I'm sure it will be fun going forward. But it isn't very fun, the fact that they've just added a bunch of tanks that just annihilate everybody. So yeah, the fact that whenever we talk about Enlisted, it's shrouded in this vehicle discussion instead of, you know, the infantry, which is 80% of the game. It kind of annoys me and shows the problem with it. The way that people play Enlisted now is just farming bots, because why would you ever be an infantry person? Like, what's the point? You just get mauled by tanks. Then if you don't get mauled by tanks, you get mauled by planes. They're also adding a feature into Enlisted, which is basically going to make it impossible to stream. So they're adding a feature where if somebody joins a match, then all of their friends are able to join on top of them. Which is cool from like the average perspective, because it's like, hey, you know, maybe we all queue up for different things, and then we see who gets access to what, and then we go from them. Isn't that really cool? We can all play together. Because we're all in this together once we go and dreaming. Yeah, so it's awesome. But if you stream the game, it basically means you just need one person to get into your game, which is really not hard to do, by the way. And then and then what they'll do is they'll just absolutely just bring in, 8-9 other people to absolutely annihilate you. So it isn't exactly very fun. One of the problems I had with Enlisted playing it was because I would play everything like I do War Thunder. It would put me in situations where I'd have a bunch of bots on my team and have to face 8, 9, or 10 real people. And it wasn't very fun, and I don't think I want to go back to that. Just sucked, and there was no protections, there was no nothing, and if anything, there was people just making fun of it instead. So, just made it a very unfortunate experience by the end. So then we have Malt Borjesen. Hi Tech, hello. I noticed that there's a challenge in the Battle Pass which includes killing enemies with torpedoes. I'm not a naval player, and I barely researched any of the tech trees, but I've managed the Battle Pass challenges through stuff like the SKR-1. Is there a quicker way of doing this challenge other than killing people with a torpedo boat? Because in my opinion, it's very difficult. Love from Sweden. Well, the SKRs have torpedoes, so you can try and use those. The other thing is to try and quickly grind up the German tech tree for coastal. There is a vehicle in the coastal tech tree for Germany. I can't remember its name. Just give me 2 seconds. If I wasn't in a game I could show you. But the V990. Thank you, Eep. So in the coastal tech tree for Germany, there's a machine called the V990. Now, this vehicle is very fast, incredibly fast. And its torpedoes are also incredibly fast. So it goes at about 120 kilometers an hour in arcade, and the torpedoes also go at about 120 kilometers an hour. So, basically, what you do is it's at a BR where you face a lot of reserve destroyers, which don't pay attention. So they just kind of go in straight lines because they're focusing on shooting people. So you take advantage of that with the V990, and then you just launch one torpedo at one destroyer, and then one torpedo at another one from like 4 or 3 to 5k out because they can't see you, and then they'll die from it. So that's basically a good way of getting torpedo kills in Naval. The other one is if you have already ground out the SKR for squadron vehicles, the Shimakaze. So the Shimakaze, or the Shimi, is a 5.0 Japanese destroyer. Now, what the Shimi does very well is it is a vehicle which has access to a metric ton of torpedoes. So it has quite a lot of the standard guns for Japan, but they're not very good. But it has a huge amount of torpedoes on the side, whether it's either 12 or 16. I think it might be 16. And what you can do with that is you can actually create a wave of torpedoes, and then get a reload on, and then do the same thing again and again and again. And if you get on those open maps, or if you get on maps which only have one spawn, the enemy can't do anything. You will hit targets. It's as simple as that. You will not miss. It's basically the way to put it. So, in that sense, that's what I would do. I would either play the SKR and just do what you're doing, but try and focus on torpedo kills. I would use the V990 against early destroyers, since it's a higher rank and it will get it done, or the Shimakaze, which is the squadron vehicle. Those two, the V990 and the Shimi, are my go-tos. They're very good. There's they're ones which, you know, people have used for years, and they'll be really good. The nice thing about the Shimmy as well is its torpedoes, they have a 20-kilometer range. So you can stay very far away from the battlefield and still do it. You can even up-tier it into slightly higher BRs because you get the bigger maps. And a lot of people, especially with certain machines, just kind of stand still and don't really do anything with them. So what you can do is you can just straight up get involved in that, and then just, you know, hammer time them, and which is pretty fun. So yeah, I would recommend having a look at those as vehicles to give a go at. Happy Friday, Zero. Nice to see you. Hopefully you had a good week, man. Hopefully everything went well. We got 1 kill. Quite nice. Yeah, that's how I would do it. If I find out anyone is playing Naval, I'll find you in real life. What do you have against people playing Naval, man? Naval's pretty fun sometimes. It was nice playing a lot of the 5-7 Blue Water stuff during the event. Got a lot of it done. Hey, SHD, nice to see you. Hopefully you're doing good. Hopefully everything's okay. Hey, SJ, nice to see you too. Happy Friday. Ooh, it's getting warm in this room. So then we have C76 Caravan. Should War Thunder make it possible to change custom loadouts in a battle, instead of still being stuck in a battle with loadouts set in the hangar? Since you can make so many custom loadouts already, I don't think there needs to be a way. I don't think there needs to be a way of being able to make custom loadouts in a battle. Surely that's something where you should go, oh, I should have needed this, you know, and what I should have done is, you know, therefore put it together at the start of the battle, right? So then you know for next time. I feel like that is probably something that would be better. I don't think there needs to be that ability. I love Naval, but I absolutely hate the modes. Battleship gameplay is just so dead. It needs to be remade. Well, I don't know what people expected from Battleship slogging it out. Like, I don't even know what people want from it either, you know? Hey, Evan, nice to see you. Yeah, doing good. Hopefully you're doing good too. Just doing the tech talk and relaxing. Doing well. Will there be a new German anti-air, Daniel? Not sure. There was the OSA, which was talked about, which is the Soviet anti-air, which should be coming to the German tech tree at some point. Then we have Way She Goes. Hello, Tech. Hello. My question is about the Battle Pass challenge called Shooting in Akimbo Style. 20 grand with either the PBM5A or the Sholef. No option for the Z25, which I received from the level 38 box. Now, I bought the Battle Pass with the intention of trading the vehicles to the next Battle Pass. I have no interest in keeping these two. So just wondering if that makes this challenge impossible to complete. If I use the coupon to get the vehicle for the challenge, will that prevent me from trading the coupon for the next Battle Pass? I play on PS5, but I don't see how it'd be different from PC. It's not different from PC, but luckily you have been saved, because if I'd answered this earlier in the week, it probably would have been more of an issue. But yeah, so they just did a changelog recently, I think today or yesterday, which meant those vehicles that you unlock in the Naval box, you can use for that Battle Pass mission. So if you want to actually do that, like if you want to get the 20 grand mission score, you can use the Naval vehicle now. They changed it. If you go to the Battle Pass mission, so if you go like here, Battle Pass challenges, you can see Shooting Akimbo Style. They've actually added the Naval vehicles to it now. So you don't just have to use the PBM5 or the Sholef. So yeah. I would have, last week, I would have agreed with you. It's a pretty big issue. And I think it's something that I brought up actually a few weeks ago But yeah, luckily that's fixed now, so we don't have to worry. It's all good. I need to try to limit the kinds of ships per team to BBs, to something, to heavy cruisers, 6 lights or something. If they do that, then it would just be battleships killing everything. You know? It's not really that fun. Like right now, if you play around 6.0, you'll eventually have like, if you play around 6.0, you'll have like games where it's like a bunch of light cruisers, a bunch of heavy cruisers, and then like maybe 1 battle cruiser and 2 battleships. And people just don't shoot the battleships because you can't kill them. So those battleships just do whatever they want, and there's nothing you can do about it. They just kind of sucks, you know. Doesn't really work very well. Did I play the Iranian F-14? Is it good? I played the standard F-14 and it's very good, yes. Then we have MT. How are you doing? I'm doing good. Thank you. Doing alright. Feeling pretty good. I still think that Gaiji need to address some things. Spawn protection, SPAA versus planes are too long. SPAA versus planes? You think SPAAs have too long spawn protection against aircraft? I don't think so. The issue with that is the fact that you know where they spawn as a plane, right? So since you know where they spawn as a plane, you know what you have to look out for, whereas an SPAA doesn't necessarily know where you are because you have a 3D space and they don't. So, yeah. That's always been the issue with SPAA. When you spawn, people know where you are straight away because you have limited area to spawn in. So, just means that planes can track you really well, you know. Number 2, IRSPA is too easy to use. One of them is, but it's also gone up in BR 3 times. The Soviet one, whatever it's called. All the rest are pretty naff a lot of the time, depending on what they're facing. Like, IRSPAAs are great if you have them upgraded. Like, for example, the Ocelot, right? If you have the proximity missile, yeah, it's pretty good. You can still dodge the missiles in planes, but it's kind of hard to know they're coming because, you know, the way that the RWR works when it comes to the radar, because it's an RST thing. But you still have to get that proximity missile for the Ocelot. And one of the things that you have to remember with IRSPAs is they just do not lock onto helicopters. They just don't do it unless like the helicopter's like a 1.5 kilometers, 2 kilometers away. Hey Q Remy, nice to see you. So what that basically means is you have a vehicle which is fundamentally only good at killing certain things and nothing else. Like the amount of times that I've been sat there with something like an Ocelot or with even the Strela or the Chaparral is a fantastic example of this, you know? Hey Schwartz, nice to see you. The Chaparral is a vehicle which just is useless and also has no survivability. So yeah, IRSPAAs against specific targets are pretty easy to use, but it's also very easy to kill IRSPAAs. But a lot of the IRSPAAs literally cannot do their job against a lot of cast that exists, which sucks. People J out when they're gonna die to bombs and rockets. I mean, I haven't personally seen that happen a lot. I gotta be honest with you. I don't see a lot of people J out when that happens because usually they don't really see the ordnance coming in, and also in order to J out you need like 3-4 seconds to react. It's not as quick as air with the ejection seats. where it's just 1 second. But also, it can be incredibly frustrating because of what I said before. Where if you are a person, let's say you are an individual, and what you do is you spawn in your SPAA with the intent of defending against planes, and then the plane sees you because you've just spawned in the only place you're allowed to spawn, and the plane sees you come in and all of that stuff. Of course, it's going to be annoying that you just instantly get bombed or rocketed. So people are going to get frustrated at that and jay out. But as I said, I haven't really seen a lot. I might be wrong. It's the same with like the chat stuff, right? Hardly ever see anybody using it usefully. But also at the same time, I really don't see a lot of people, abusing others in the chat either, apart from in very specific areas of the game. So yeah, it's one of those things that doesn't really bother me that much, especially since CAS is at such a heavy advantage already. I know many people don't like CAS, but it's part of the game and should be a good experience for players playing it. 70 SP and IR SPA versus an 800 plus air with guided weapons is already a big gap. Yeah, I mean, it can be, but once again, what if you are literally using a vehicle that cannot lock onto you? What if it's just a simple helicopter that the IR missile can't lock onto? What do you do then? Suppose you just die, right? The reason why those levels are like that, by the way, is because of how powerful CAS is compared to an AA. So, hey, Peter the Great, nice to see you. Hopefully you're doing good. There is no way to deal with an SPA that just pops out of spawn. It's spawn protected and has IR missiles when you don't even have flares to pre-flare. What do you think about it? I think you should be mindful of where the enemy spawn is. So you can set up in a position where you don't just get insta-gibbed by an IR missile that just spawns. Because you have the whole sky to play with. And also you have the terrain and the contour of the terrain to work with too. And since you know exactly where that person is going to be. So just always be mindful of the spawn while you play. Just like how you want the AA to be mindful of 360-degree head swivel air all around them. So they know exactly where everybody is. Just use some of that logic, and then you should be good. You've never been able to flare any of the IR SAMs. I've always had to outmaneuver them. Depends on the IR missile, but yeah, a lot of them are pretty strong IR CCMs. But yeah, there are some matchups where you are just going to get annihilated. There are some positions where you are just going to get annihilated, and it kind of sucks, Dying is part of War Thunder, just as is destruction. But one of the things that I would say is to understand you're not supposed to win every matchup you play. If everybody always has a positive experience in a PvP game, then you are not playing PvP because you are playing against bots. There will be situations where you do lose, and that's okay. Especially if you are in the ascendancy and you end up dying. That's fine. It's as simple as that. Do you think the S300 like AA will come to the game? Not on the maps we have, no. What do you think you do when you're attacked by 32 ninjas with Uzis and katanas? Simple, die, yeah. But the reason why a plane with guided weapons is so much more expensive than an AA, especially an IR AA, is because an IR AA can only do one thing. All they can do is shoot down aircraft, right? They can't really do anything else. Some of them can scout, you get a bit of scouting on, which is nice, but most of them, literally all they can do is shoot down aircraft. As a plane with a full loadout, you can do whatever you want. Like, you can You can take over the world, you can take over the game, you can do whatever. That's why the cost is so different. It's because over time, it has been shown that a person with a fully loaded plane is incredibly powerful in War Thunder. SP costs are just ways of balancing, right? So the way to see it is one person in an SPAA, if there's, is worth a tenth of what that plane is. Crazy to think about, right? Hey, Missile, nice to see you. When can we expect the next Devblog? Tomorrow or next week? In the data mine, there was a French naval decal. That's probably for French naval CBT. Would be pretty fun. We do kind of with the radar stations. They're an Air RB to destroy but not use. Yeah, but imagine in Air RB if those missile systems just started firing at you. You think players would be happy? That'd be hilarious. Hey, Abby, nice to see you. Hopefully you're doing good. Right, that's the end of the questions from the Tech Talk. Do any of you guys have anything that you want to go through from the stream? You guys too miss me, Jade out? Yeah, that happens too. I've had that a few times. I've had it where people have, like, I've annihilated somebody, like, done a ton of damage to them, and then they just end up Jing out too, because they're like, well, he's just gonna shoot me again. Some people just rage, man, and that's just how it goes, you know? That's what happens in a PvP game. I don't refuse to spade the French Crusader, Monet. I'm literally playing the French Alpha Jet right now, aren't I? But the French Crusader is not in a positive position, and I don't want to. Hey Alex, nice to see you. Over the period of this time of playing this event, I've spaded the Super Étendard, I've nearly spaded the Alpha Jet. There was another, the F100 for France. I played a lot of France. Pretty cool. I have a question to Armchair General as you. What's the next step of the Ukrainian army? Where? Somehow force NATO into the war. There you go. Easy peasy. Alright. Okay. Is this the second day of the star or the first day of the next one? This is the second day of the star, Alex. I just finished it earlier. Heli spawn AA or some way to get around heli spawn camping helis? I thought they did fix that, didn't they? Because they gave helis like some spawn protection if they're on the ground. So you can't just insta-gib them. Sounds good, Alex. Look after yourself. I thought that was kind of fixed. Also, can you give us explanation about the allegations of you spamming the Hellcat and Bearcat just to flame all chat? I am a god, Monet. That's all I can say. I am a god. There's no other ways around it. Yeah, the only way I can see very large AI systems being in the game is AI targets. I can't see them as player controlled. Don't think we'll ever get to a point in War Thunder where, you know, you're gonna have engagement distances of like 100 kilometers or anything like that. It would be kind of nuts to see. Just because of, you know, all the stuff that's going on. Right, so that'll be the end of the tech talk. Pretty short one this time, but also there wasn't too much to talk about last week. This week, though, there's quite a lot. Obviously, with all of the Devblog starting and some of the leaks that came out, a few other things. It's been a pretty fun time. But anyway, we'll continue streaming, but we'll close off the tech talk now. Look after yourselves. Peace be with you. Bye-bye.